Before the arrests, Jodi Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke were living together in a secluded multi-million-dollar home in Ivins, Utah, far from neighbors, far from scrutiny. In May 2023, the former family counselor and the disgraced YouTuber moved into Hildebrandt's four-bedroom property with four of Franke's children. What unfolded behind those walls, prosecutors say, was not discipline but systematic abuse. According to the Washington County Attorney's Office, the two women targeted the youngest children, cutting them off from food and water, isolating them from others, and forcing them into exhausting physical labor as punishment. Investigators later described the home as a work camp-like setting, a place where suffering was routine and control was absolute. The situation came to light in August 2023 when Franke's 12-year-old son managed to escape the property and ran to a neighbor for help. That single act shattered months of secrecy. When authorities searched the home, they found disturbing evidence consistent with the boy's account. Inside were handcuffs, ropes, and homemade remedies allegedly used to treat injuries caused by punishment. The discovery painted a chilling picture of what life had been like for the children inside the isolated desert mansion. Hildebrandt and Franke were arrested shortly afterward. Both women later pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse and were sentenced to prison terms that could keep them behind bars for up to 30 years. Prosecutors would later reveal that at the time of her arrest, Hildebrandt had been preparing to sell the Ivins property. According to court filings, she was allegedly planning a move to even deeper isolation in the Arizona desert, a plan investigators believe could have placed the children in even greater danger. The Ivins, Utah home where the abuse occurred was as massive as it was remote. Built in 2017, the nearly 10,000-square-foot property sat on 1.4 acres of desert land, roughly 300 miles away from the Franke family's original home in Springville. On the surface, it looked like a luxury retreat. Inside, authorities say, it became something far darker. The house featured 4 bedrooms, a guest house, a gourmet kitchen, a home theater, a 5-car garage, and a pool with a hot tub. Real estate listings once described it as a true masterpiece, boasting stunning desert views and a lifestyle built on privacy and comfort. But prosecutors would later argue that the same isolation that made the property desirable also made it dangerous. Before moving to Ivins, Hildebrandt had already embedded herself deeply into the Franke family's life. In 2021, she briefly moved in with Ruby Franke and her husband Kevin Franke, claiming she was experiencing painful visions. By the following year, Hildebrandt and Franke had effectively taken control of the household, forcing Kevin out. In May 2023, the two women relocated again, this time to Hildebrandt's Ivins estate, bringing along the youngest Franke children. According to court documents and Ruby Franke's own journal entries, the punishments intensified inside the secluded home. The children were allegedly subjected to deprivation and extreme discipline, which Franke claimed were meant to purge them of evil. For months, no one outside the property knew what was happening. The home's distance from neighbors and its fortress-like design kept the abuse hidden, until one child broke free. When the 12-year-old escaped and led police back to the house, investigators say the evidence inside confirmed their worst fears. The luxury estate, once marketed as a dream home, quickly became central evidence in one of Utah's most disturbing child abuse cases. What investigators found beneath the home was even more unsettling. Below the polished living spaces was a massive underground area completely encased in concrete. In the Netflix documentary Evil Influencer, The Jodi Hildebrandt Story, Washington County Attorney Eric Clark described it as a cement-reinforced basement storage space, one that felt more like a bunker than part of a family home. The basement was lined with shelves and storage rooms stocked with survival supplies, including canned food and non-perishable water. Former clients later claimed Jodi Hildebrandt was deeply invested in doomsday preparedness, obsessively planning for collapse and isolation. Much of the underground space was empty, but one room stood out. Behind a heavy vault-style door was what authorities identified as a locked panic room. The door could only be opened from the outside. When investigators asked about it, Hildebrandt allegedly claimed she did not remember the access code and insisted she had not used the room in years. Police quickly cracked the simple code. Inside, they found a small, sealed room furnished with a Murphy bed, a toilet, a microwave, cabinets, and an empty refrigerator and freezer. At first glance, it looked like a survival shelter, but when officers opened the drawers, they discovered rope and handcuffs, items prosecutors believe were used in the abuse of the Franke children. The room's design and location raised serious red flags. Authorities noted that the space was hidden, reinforced, and cut off from the rest of the home, making it ideal for confinement without detection. Combined with the physical evidence found elsewhere in the house, investigators say it supported the accounts of prolonged punishment and restraint. By this point, the narrative was clear to law enforcement. The Ivins' home was not just a place where abuse happened, it was structured, modified, and used in ways that allowed the abuse to continue in secrecy until a child escaped and exposed what was happening underground. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered signs that the Ivins' home may have been only a temporary stop. Financial records showed that while living in the isolated Utah property, Jodi Hildebrandt had quietly purchased several acres of land in a remote part of the Arizona desert. According to prosecutors, the move was not random, it was planned. Journal entries written by Ruby Franke suggested Hildebrandt was preparing her home for sale. In the writings, Franke described plans to relocate somewhere even more isolated. Detectives later concluded the goal may have been to escalate the abuse away from any chance of outside interference. One chilling entry suggested they planned to drop them like hot potatoes in the desert. Shortly after Hildebrandt pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse in late 2023, the Ivins property was listed for sale at $5.3 million. A judge initially blocked the sale, concerned about ensuring the Franke children would benefit from the proceeds. The restriction was later lifted under strict conditions, requiring that $100,000 from any sale be placed in an account for the children. The house's price was reduced to $4.99 million in March 2024, after months without a buyer. At one point in 2025, the listing briefly showed a pending sale, raising questions about who would purchase a property so deeply tied to a high-profile abuse case. The deal ultimately fell through, and the house quietly returned to the market. By July 2025, after more than a year with no successful sale, the home was taken off the market entirely. As of January 2026, the once celebrated luxury estate remains unlisted, a silent structure in the Utah desert, permanently linked to the crime that unfolded behind its walls.